All right, moving on with Tasha's. They next give us a little short section. It's just a couple of pages on Dungeon Master's Tools, as they call it, which really I should have just called it some DM hints. And then they get into some more useful material that we'll look at a whole lot better. But I like this picture right here of Tasha, and who's that, Mordenkainen or whatever, playing a game of chess. Looks like that classic scene from the original Star Wars Episode 4 where Chewbacca and R2-D2 were playing on that board. But just sort of an updated version for D&D right there. So here under the DM tools, they just talk about some of the things you want to remember. I like where they start off right here. As a DM, your primary tool is your imagination, by far right there. As DM, you got to be able to think quick, adjust and adapt fast, and keep the game moving. Most things the player's going to come up with, you could never anticipate, but that's okay. You just keep it going. Everything ought to work out all right. Number one thing is to entertain the players as the DM. A lot of that involves storytelling. If you can throw in some humor, I think that's always great. Some type of funny character, whatever. You got to be able to listen. You're not there to talk and command and direct. As a DM, you're there to listen to the players and keep the game going in a way that they find enjoyable. Not the way you think it ought to run, but the way they're going to be having fun. That is the DM's job without anything else right there. So, of course, the DM's got to be familiar with the rules right there. And they talk about throwing in other things that are fun, like puzzles and such. Towards the end of the book, they got a little section on puzzles that we'll look at. So they mentioned session 0. Everybody's familiar with this right here. I like this little comment by Tasha they throw in. Establish boundaries, and if anyone crosses them, speak up. If they don't listen, there's always cloud kill. Sounds like something she would say. So everybody knows session 0. It's basically where you organize the party. You decide the classes you want. What level is everybody going to be? What roles are they going to have in the game? And so on down the line. And of course, at that time, the DM needs to list the players and think, what is it they want to play? How is it that their play style is best for them having fun? So it's all about expectations right there. And they have a little section here on house rules we'll talk a little bit more about too. Everybody has their own house rules for any game. You go to anybody's house, play Monopoly, you'll see a different set of rules in every single house. Same thing goes for D&D. But one big thing I want to comment on house rules that I think is the number one thing that drags down D&D games and destroys them more than anything else is the DM having some bad house rules and also the mentality that it's the DM versus the players. No, the DM controls everything. If they go in with the attitude that it's the DM versus the players will always lose. They're not going to have fun. When you come up with your own house rules, one thing I've noticed about DM house rules, there are always limitations. I don't think one time I've ever seen a DM say, I'm going to allow something here that's extra that I think would be fun, and so on down the line. It's always, no, we're not going to use this, we're not going to use that. Players read these books, Player's Handbook, any of the expansions, Tasha's, whatever, and they come in with the expectations of what they're going to do. Let them use what's in the books right there. Stop limiting things. Stop trying to think the players are going to be too powerful and it's me against them. DM ego is the number one thing destroys more games. That's what I've seen destroy practically every one of them in the past. I've been playing probably close to 40 years right there. You got to let the players largely do what they want. Now, of course, you can't let them be invulnerable. That's an exaggeration right there. But let them play the rules. As DM, you can expand the adventure to number of enemies or level of them, anything you want to make it equally challenging. They want to have a little something extra, let them go with it. I've seen DMs completely deny particular feats and spells and things like that in games because they didn't think they were fair. You've already destroyed part of the game right there. Don't have that attitude. Let the players play. Keep it fun. Remember, it is not the DM against them. So they talk about restricting certain options. Again, that's usually what you see during session 0s. The DM saying, well, I'm in charge and this is what I'm not going to allow. You might as well just walk away at that point right there. Pretty much allow whatever's in the books and you adapt your game to them. Let the players play and have fun and change to whatever you need. And again, don't take sore attitude. If they win, that does not mean the DM loses. You're there to make sure everything else is running and the players are having fun. Right? Try not to forget that right there. So they talk about party formation right here. How does this party come together? How do they get to know each other? You could think of all sorts of different ways. And they mention you could even roll a d6 and say the characters grew up together. Maybe they've got a common enemy. That's probably one of the most common right there. Maybe somebody's paying them. They got a benefactor. Maybe a death of a mutual friend brought them together. A festival. Maybe they're all trapped in a prison. Whatever that may be. I just like to always assume, look, everybody knows each other, but if you get a group really likes the backstory and more stuff like, hey, nothing wrong with that. Let them do it. But my point being, don't bog down the game. Don't try and come up with this thing and that thing. And people say, well, I'm tired of meeting and tired. Just assume you know each other and just play the game. Just get on with it. Bogging down the game will destroy it really fast. So they talk about running a game for one player, something I've never done. But if you wanted to show someone how the game is played, that'd be a good idea. Just set up a simple combat. Give them a third level fighter and let them fight an orc or something such as that right there. And once they see it's not intimidating and they'll just watch what the group does and join in, that's a good way to introduce somebody into the game right there. And that's generally how I do it. Show them how to roll up a character. Give them a simple combat and show them how it works. They'll get past that intimidation factor thinking, oh, this is something, look at all these rule books I'll never learn. Let them play and they'll figure it out quick. So again, things you don't want to forget. DM, do not go in with the mindset that it's you against the players. You've already destroyed the game if you've done that right there. Set up reasonable combats. I can't tell you how many games I've played in where every room you walked into, there was a 50-50 shot of a party wipe right there. It's unbelievable. Some DMs think the only way to make the game fun is wherever room they go into that, well, there's a 50% chance everybody's going to get killed. You go into your average, say, set of caverns, maybe there's 30, 40 rooms. Seriously, you want everybody to die 15 to 20 times? DMs, leave your ego at the door right there. You got to do that. Considering what are the chances of them finishing this adventure, not just this one single encounter right here. The DM can't play a character that swoops in and saves the party. I've seen this over and over. They'll have some type of, the DM be running something. Maybe it's a healer nobody wanted to play or something like that. Maybe it's a powerful caster. And just as the group gets down and everything's lost, the DM swoops in and saves the day. You just destroyed the game. You do not play the game. You want to have some type of NPC in the back. The players want them to cast a heal spell on them, something. Do that. But do not take part of the game right there. You're there to make sure the players determine their will. Roll the dice and let the dice determine whether they win or lose. And of course, their strategies and everything else plays into that big time right there. So don't be trying to just be the savior of the game. That'll ruin it too. Leave your ego at the door and DM, for heaven's sake, be prepared. Can't tell you how many DMs I've seen walk in and you can tell they have not looked at the first thing. They just want to make up every single thing as they go along. That just destroys a game right there. Another big one. And something else I could have typed in down here to add to this. Don't let players get into fights. As players get to battling each other, everybody else just gets to sit there and watch as these two people lose their temper and all that. There should be a rule set up ahead of time. Look, you do not fight the other players, period. That will destroy a game session very fast. So good things to remember. So they talk about a little social contract. What's going to be fun for everybody? What are the players hoping for? What do they want to see? And what would be something they don't want to see? Again, don't forget as DM, you're not there to railroad the game. You are not there to tell them what they do and don't need to be doing. Set something up. Listen to them ahead of time. Figure out what is it that they like best. Do they like the role playing? Do they like the combat? Do they like the adventuring? And so on down the line like that right there. So they talk about setting soft limits and hard limits, things, kind of borderline iffy and other things that are absolutely forbidden. And I have seen people throw dice. It's unbelievable. People act like they're 6 years old when they're 30 years old. They will throw dice and get mad because it didn't go their way. And if anybody anytime feels as DM, I'm not running it properly, I'll roll those dice right out in the middle of that table just like they will. I'll tell them what that monster needs to hit them before I ever throw them. Let them know you're being fair. If they think that you're doing something unreasonable and that you're hurting, killing them off on purpose, put those dice out there. You heard them say, oh, no, I can't do that. They can't know this stuff. That's because they haven't left their ego at the door. Let them know it's a fair game if that's what they want. They mentioned cell phones. That right there will destroy a game as quick as anything. Some people want to show up, play on their phone the whole time. I definitely tell them, look, go put the phone in your vehicle and play, or just leave, one or the other. You have to give them rules such as that. So again, know your party, know your peoples at combat, exploration, role-playing. I've seen people who want to do nothing but role-play. They want to walk into a tavern and talk to the tavern owner for 30 minutes about their life. I will never understand that as long as I live right there, because everybody else is just sitting and wasting their life in that time. Again, you got to keep the game moving. That's the most important thing. Throw in some humor. They talk about technology. If you look at in the Icewind Dale book that recently came out, there's a crashed spaceship of mind flayers, which has ray guns, like from Star Wars and stuff like that. So what technology you want in the game is important. Some people allow this, some people don't. I think for a tiny section, like where those mind flayers had that crash ship in the ice, nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't want it in all my D&D games, but here and there I think it'd be a little fun, a little extra. Puzzles and riddles. I've seen DMs throw up puzzles, and if they couldn't solve the puzzle, everybody died. That's the most ridiculous thing I ever saw in my life. Have a puzzle where if they can solve it, they get an advantage, maybe a pass over a creature that's really powerful. But if they can't solve it, still give them an out. Give them a combat, not just automatic death. That's unbelievable. And then they talk about leveling up. Two ways to do it. You can go purely on experience, or it can be achievement based. And again, the new Icewind Dale is achievement based. Players are supposed to go like through levels 1 through 10, can go as high as 12, something such as that right there. But it tells you in the book, once they get to this section, if they're not at this level, move them to that level, advance them up, and so on down the line. Nothing wrong with achievement based. Don't let them get into something that's over their head. And that could be a big problem with that Icewind Dale book if the DM doesn't run it right. So think about your house rules. If in doubt, give the players the benefit of the doubt. If at any time I ever get to an impasse where the player says, well, it's this way, and I say it's this way, I'll tell you what I would do. Give them the benefit. Say, all right, this time you get it right there. Absolutely no problem with that at all. And then say, in the future, let's compromise and do it this way. If in doubt, let the players have fun. Because remember, it's not about the rules. It's not about you versus them. It's about them having fun. So think about that if you DM much. Hopefully all these new rules, and shouldn't say so much rules, but additions to the game will improve everything. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.